Everyone tells you just chop up your podcast episode into 10 pieces of content and blast it out everywhere, right? Well, I'm here to tell you that that doesn't always work, especially if you're a B2B brand. These random little clips just seem out of context on most social platforms. They don't build trust, they don't generate leads, and they definitely don't drive results for you and your business. In this video, I'm going to show you how you can get smarter and a little more strategic with repurposing your content in a system that actually works for B2B podcasts and businesses like yours. It helps you drive growth to your business, builds brand loyalty, and saves you a ton of time in the end. I first want to admit something to ourselves, right? This promise of one episode is 10 posts across all channels and it happens automatically and I can use AI to just do this with the click of a button. Sounds great, right? But the reality is, even as great as AI is today, it just doesn't happen like that in the real world. And here's the problem. Most of the content people create from that model is just filler. It's kind of average, right? Because every platform is different. And so the content we create for those platforms have to be unique and special just for those platforms and the things that they really like. Your LinkedIn audience wants really deep insights and thought leadership from you. Your Instagram followers want really visually heavy and kind of snappy content. And TikTok, you have about a half a second to hook someone before they scroll on. So when you try to take one podcast episode, stick it in some AI tool, and cut out a bunch of random sound bites and toss them onto TikTok or Instagram, you end up missing the boat and actually doing more damage to your brand than good. You see, repurposing only works well if the end product is valuable on its own as a standalone piece of content. And I think that's where most people go wrong. So what does work? Well, let me show you a simple and really strategic workflow that's perfect for B2B podcasters. I like to start with the core of your content, which is your podcast episode. This is the pillar upon which we'll build everything else. And from here, we'll build this out into 4 different kind of asset groups. The first is the podcast episode itself. Pretty obvious. Publish the audio version of your podcast to a hosting platform like Castos with a strong kind of search optimized title that has a lot of kind of description and intrigue into it. Optimize the written description and you're good to go. This is the audio version. Publish the video version to YouTube as well. Every single one of the more than 25 podcasts we've launched for our customers at Castos Productions in the last kind of year have been video, and a lot of them have been video first podcasts. Video is the name of the game when it comes to any content these days, and podcasting is no different. The third is to create a LinkedIn post and a blog article from the transcript of the episode. So you have all of this great content in the long form multimedia version and audio and video. Move that into a text version, put it on LinkedIn for a B2B audience typically, and put it on your website because we want folks coming back to the website in the end for everything we do. And that brings us to the fourth, which is the email newsletter. So we want to summarize the value of the episode and why folks should check it out in a pretty short email. Make it skimmable, link to the full version in the email itself. Remember, with the goal being to drive people from email back to the website where they take some kind of business action. Sign up for a demo, start a free trial, download a white paper, join your next webinar, whatever that kind of end business goal that you have is. And so once we have those 4 kind of key pillars, we can expand into things like a 30-second clip for LinkedIn or YouTube Shorts. That's great. Create a quote card or a carousel maybe for LinkedIn with big takeaways from our episode. Have a, hey, did you know, or by the way, post on something like Twitter or Instagram. And we can turn the takeaways into things like lead magnets if we want as well. But you see what we're doing here. Every piece has a purpose. Every asset is designed for the platform that it's going live on. It's native there. And that's really the key difference. And by the way, just in case a lot of this seems like a lot of work, it is. Even with the AI tools that we have today, doing this really well is hard. It takes a lot of effort, skill, and intentionality on your part. But you're a business owner, you're a CEO, you're a marketing leader, and you're doing a lot. You have a lot of plates you're juggling. So if you're looking for a partner to help you create all these marketing assets, including the podcast for your company, it's exactly what we do at Castos Productions. We handle not just the audio and video editing, but the content repurposing that I've just talked about, so that 1 hour of your time turns into more than a week's worth of content across multiple channels for you and your brand. If you want to learn more about what we do and how we can help, check out castos.com/productions to learn more. Now, let's talk about how to actually do this without burning out. Here's the tech stack and kind of process that I recommend. Of course, I'm biased, but Castos for a podcast hosting platform. This will handle distribution of your audio version of your podcast to places like Apple Podcasts and Spotify. I'll want to use a project management tool like Notion or Trello to map out my content calendar and keep track of what's been done and by who. Tools like Descript to make editing super easy for your episodes. You can just highlight a quote and delete it if you want to remove that. Castos also integrates with Descript, where you can publish your final episode right from Descript to your Castos account. And for recording, you really have two options here. You can keep it really simple, and you're already using something like Zoom, you can record there. But for a more specialized recording tool, I like Riverside. The key here is to create a repeatable system. Once you do this for a few episodes, it really does get faster every time, and you get a little better at your job. Now, let's walk through a real example of an actual episode. So let's say you host a podcast and you have an episode that is top 5 AI tools for business owners. Here's how I might think about repurposing that. First, we'll publish the audio version of the episode to Castos. This handles distributions to places like Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and a couple of dozen other podcast directories where your listeners are already tuning into episodes. Next is we'll publish the video to YouTube. YouTube's the second biggest search engine in the world and is the place for video. Your podcast has to be on YouTube. Next, with the transcript that we've created, we'll create a blog post showing how what we talk about solves real world problems for our customers. And next, we'll create a LinkedIn carousel, maybe with like one slide per tool, because we talk about these 5 AI tools, and you can use a template from something like Canva for this. Next, we'll grab a 20, 30, 40-second clip where we break down each tool for the video that we have. There's 5 tools. This is 5 extra clips here. And last, we can create a quote card or something like that, which is a visual kind of representation of what we talked about in the episode. We can post this on LinkedIn, but also something like Instagram. Boom. One episode, more than a dozen platform native assets that all tie back to your brand and the value that you bring to your market and to the audience. And so let me leave you with this. Repurposing isn't about squeezing every last drop out of your original piece of content. It's about extending the impact and extending the concepts from that one core piece of content you created. B2B audiences, especially these days, just can't deal with the noise. They want value, clarity, and consistency from you and your brand. So let's give them that. Make sure every piece you share makes sense for the platform you're publishing it on. It delivers real insight and drives your audience one step closer to trust with you and your brand. In the end, distribution is half the job. Don't just create, you have to promote as well to grow an audience and to grow a podcast. So if you're ready to repurpose smarter, not harder, and grow your B2B podcast with a streamlined workflow, head over to castos.com/productions. Link in the description below to see how we can help you put your entire podcast production and repurposing on autopilot so you can sit down and record and we handle the rest.